Well, thanks a lot for staying with us here on Newsnight. This week, the festive season road safety report revealed that 1,612 people died on the country's roads from the 1st of December to the 8th of January.
Yeah, that number on its own may not have any context, so let's give you some. It's 85 more than the same period the year before. According to the World Health Organization's Global Status Report on Road Safety, the seatbelt wearing rate in South Africa is as low as 38% for drivers and 31% for front-seated passengers.
Now, last year, the Global New Car Assessment Program, known as the NCAP, and the Automobile Association shipped 4 locally sold cars to Germany to crash test them. So I've got our reporter Michael Appel as well as cameraman Joe Komane, who went along for the ride.
In some countries like Germany, for example, a driving license is a privilege. The society gives you the privilege to drive a car on the roads, and it's not a right.
And it's a right that we in South Africa abuse. A few years ago, the World Health Organization found that almost 6 out of every 10 accidents in South Africa are alcohol-related. About 40 South Africans on average will die on our roads today.
When we look at the number of fatalities, we're looking at 14,000 plus for 2017, 2016 and so on. So there is not a culture of road safety in South Africa.
Law number 1, every time when you're in a car, buckle up. Doesn't matter how many airbags, the first line of defense and protection, seatbelt.
But we all know people who consider safety belts a mere decoration. If you're one of those people, the technical director for Global NCAP has this frightening message for you.
Well, when you're driving at 60 kilometers an hour, if you don't protect yourself, it's like if you crash, it's like falling from 18 meters, which is about 5th floor.
Global NCAP and the Automobile Association have partnered to bring the country the latest results from the second round of the hashtag Safer Cars for Africa project. 4 models making up some of the biggest sellers in South Africa were shipped to Germany to undergo crash testing. It's an incredibly meticulous process. There's a tolerance for error of just 20 millimeters when crashing a vehicle. Nails are placed on the barrier and on the bumper of the car, with each having to hit the center of a sticker on the corresponding surface. Of the 4 tests done, the Toyota Yaris comes out tops with its 3-star adult and child occupant safety rating. The Hyundai i20 also scores 3 stars for adult occupants, while scoring 2 stars for child passengers in the back. To the Kia Picanto. It gets a rating of 3 stars for adults and 2 stars for child occupants. Global NCAP is concerned about one thing in particular during the test. The child seat carrying a dummy for a 3-year-old child actually detached completely from the body of the car. The child seat manufacturer has taken immediate action and removed the Picanto from their recommended list of cars for this particular child restraint system. To the last crash test. Drive a locally manufactured Nissan NP300 hardbody? You'll want to watch this. It clearly does not go well and receives a 0-star rating. In a scathing review, the Secretary General of Global NCAP, David Ward, calls the Nissan NP300's performance shockingly bad and the vehicle poorly engineered. Ward says the Nissan is ridiculously misnamed and any accident in it carries a high risk of fatality or injury. Interestingly, the AA CEO highlights that the most expensive vehicle of the 4 tested performed the worst, saying there should be no 0-star vehicles on our roads.
We noticed that the structural performance of one of the cars we tested, and we compared it to the exact model for Europe, they didn't perform, structurally speaking, in the same way. That's something else that was a bit a surprise for us.
Since last year, the AA has been advocating for all new vehicles to come out with a safety rating. There is no such law at the moment, but Leighton Beard highlights consumers have a lot more power than they think.
There needs to be some sort of a move where the safety rating of a vehicle is displayed at the point of sale and it becomes a requirement in law. So we want to move more and more to that situation. We've seen in other markets in Latin America and in India, there is this consumer pressure that is beginning to build, and it is happening in some of these markets. We would like to see that happening in South Africa as well.
Consumers can act immediately and shift the markets. And when we think about individual consumers like ourselves, we think that we're not that powerful. But when people stick to a certain policy or a certain idea, then we are very powerful. Just think about a fleet manager, not just an individual. Someone that actually, for example, a governmental fleet, it can be the case that government want to take the lead into this. And they, for example...
They should be setting the example.
Yeah, exactly. They can take the first step, and they probably can say, okay, we're going to buy cars as from next year or as from next month or next... They need to announce with certain time gap, 6 months, 1 year, it's good. And just say, we're not going to buy cars which are less than, for example, 4 or 5 stars.
Were there some things that you've noticed worry you about the vehicles that are being sold in the South African market?
Yes, the first point before testing is that when we want to buy the basic equipment, so the cheapest version of that model, they don't have the same safety features, basic safety features as, for example, the same model for Europe. That's point one, and it's quite shocking. For example, one of the cars we tested in Europe has 6 airbags and electronic stability control standard. Doesn't matter which version you want to get. And when we went to South Africa and get that car, we found it with 2 airbags and ABS.
It's clear that the cars sold and in some cases manufactured locally meet a much lower minimum safety standard than vehicles in other markets. Beard, though, makes the point that vehicles remain mere instruments in the hands of drivers.
We acknowledge that government has to do more, and even government acknowledges they have to do more. But at the end of the day, I think there is also a huge pressure that must be borne by the motoring and driving public in South Africa. There isn't enough responsibility, there isn't enough accountability in saying, yes, we are part of the problem.
It all comes down to whether or not there is a culture of road safety in South Africa. The safety of the car is just one aspect of it. And let's be honest, everybody knows somebody who's bought their license, drives drunk, or who sits on their safety belt instead of buckling up properly. Until you start changing the behavior of drivers, the cars can be as safe as they want.
Michael Appel in the crash test facility in Landsberg in Germany.
All very good points from Michael Appel. If you've missed part of that story, you're welcome to head over to our YouTube channel. Just look for ENCA. You're also head over to our website. It's on there now for you, enca.com.